Good evening, everybody. Good evening, and welcome to this August 19th meeting of the Tallahassee City Commission. Welcome back to my colleagues, and apologies to all the city staff that we're back. But the commission is back from its so-called summer recess, Madam Manager, and commissioners. And I hope everyone had an enjoyable one. We're going to go ahead and get this evening's meeting started, and I'm going to invite all of you all to please stand for the invocation and the Pledge of Allegiance. We'll begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. I'm sorry, the invocation. My bad.
See, that's what happens when we have a break.
Break, exactly. Forget.
Will those of you who care to please join us in the invocation? Dear God, we thank you for the watchful protection bestowed upon us during our summer break. As we reconvene as the governing body of this great city, we thank you for our committed employees and leaders and for the opportunity to serve our citizens. We now ask for wisdom and direction as we take on the issues that impact the future of our beloved Tallahassee. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Madam Manager, are there any agenda modifications?
Mr. Mayor, we have one deletion this afternoon. It is item 12.01, and that is the financial viability target issue update. And there is no update at this time. The meeting has been rescheduled for September.
Could we, I think it's 9.01, I'm still pulling up 9.01, just pull it for just a quick discussion.
Is that the on consent?
Consent item 9.01.
Tallahassee Housing Authority.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Are there any other items to be pulled or other modifications? Seeing none, we'll move on to presentations. All right, we're going to begin this evening's presentations with a presentation recognizing the City of Tallahassee as being included into the network of age-friendly communities. And I want to invite Jeff Johnson and his colleagues. Jeff is the State Director of AARP. If you're a member of AARP, feel free to raise your hand. All right, so we're thanking y'all for this. Anita? Yeah?
I did. Oh, yeah.
There you go.
Oh, yeah.
I'm just joking. I'll pay for that later.
Yes.
But I want to invite Jeff Johnson up for his presentation.
So, Mr. Mayor and members of the Commission, Madam Manager, I really appreciate the City of Tallahassee's forward thinking and wanting to join the AARP World Health Organization International Network of Age-Friendly Communities, because it is so critical as we look at the future of Florida and the future of each city in Florida that we build great places for all ages. And Tallahassee has shown its commitment to do this. We look forward to working with the city staff, with Sheila, and with the entire team to make sure that as you go forward in planning the future of this great town, that it's done in a way that is a successful place for people of all ages. So thank you, and on behalf of AARP, I want to present the city with this certificate signifying its inclusion in the age-friendly network. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Jeff. I appreciate that.
Mr. Mayor, will you have Sheila join you?
Yes, Sheila, please.
Yes.
Oh,
yes. Are you doing it?
Mr. Miller?
Mr. Mayor,
because I'm a member of AARP.
Well, me too. You want me to go with
Everybody that's a member.
Mr. Mayor,
Even Scott is a member these days.
that's it. Close.
Department of Elder Affairs, and I have 4 here from
Never thought of saying that.
Nancy? And act like maybe you might like each other. Come right now.
All right. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Thank you so much.
One more.
All right. Ready right here on the
Mr. Mayor, before you move to the next one, could I just make a quick comment?
She's actually going to make some comments.
Okay, good. Because she may say everything that I was going to say.
Thank you. Thank you on behalf of all of our 50-plus citizens. Thank you, AARP, and our commissioners, Madam Manager. We're really grateful to be selected as one of as being part of the age-friendly communities. And we're really grateful to be selected as a community that AARP National Office is going to be conducting a survey of the community. So if you are 50 or over, you may be getting a survey in the mail 1st of September. Please complete that and send that back in. That's going to help us gather feedback and help us kind of jumpstart this process. While we're waiting on the survey results, we're also going to be exploring the ways that we're actually going to facilitate this project, how we're going to involve our seniors and boomers in our community, and what level of budget might be needed to do this process. And with that, let the work begin. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, with our ever-aging population, as evidenced by those of us that are up here on the dais, in addition to the significant effort being made on the part of Choose Tallahassee, we clearly have a community that is aware and growing more aware of our older population. With that comes the need for education, mainly having to do with our citizens knowing more about those folks that are suffering some type of memory loss or dementia. Alzheimer's disease, I think the number is, where is it? 5th leading cause of death in individuals over 65. That's a staggering percentage. And so there's an effort around the country, and I know there are certain people here in Florida that are really pushing hard for communities to be known as dementia-friendly communities. And it doesn't involve a lot of money. What it involves is getting people to be more aware of the signs of dementia, so that if you have somebody, for example, in your place of business that might be suffering that, it's not something that requires immediate care, just an understanding of the issue they may be going through, or helping somebody try to resolve a problem. So we're starting to bring this up in our quality of life target issue group, and we're going to move this forward, because I would like Tallahassee to be, if not the first, as would Commissioner Miller, one of the first in the state of Florida to be dementia friendly. In my new position with the league, I'm going to be talking about it on a league basis too. It's important we have a huge population in that category. We need to do everything we can, and there are some folks here that are supportive of that. So whatever we can do to help our older population, we should do it.
Thank you, Commissioner Ziffer. Points well made. He mentioned, but I was going to mention as we got into the agenda, I would kindly ask you all to join me in a round of appreciation for Commissioner Ziffer, who was just elected the second vice president of the Florida League of Cities, putting him in line to become president 2 years?
2 years.
2 years from now of the Florida League of Cities. It's now becoming a proud tradition that members of this government have served at the helm of that organization. Commissioner, then Mayor Maddox, Commissioner, my predecessor, Mayor John Marks, and now we'll have Gil Ziffer in the line for presidency of the Florida League.
And with your presence on the board, that puts even more of us on the board of directors. So we have like a voting block now. Oh. I know. Look at Commissioner Maddox. He's like, yeah.
But huge congratulations there. And just to close out the AARP, some of you all remember just a few short months ago, we were also ranked in the top, I guess it would be 80th percentile, of communities that were voted most civically engaged for our senior citizens, which is a huge credit. And then yesterday we found out that we are also now, according to Wallet Hub, the smartest city in the state of Florida. More degrees per capita than any city in the state of Florida, and actually the smartest city, the 11th smartest city in the United States. Ooh. So the accolades continue, and we thank you all again for this acknowledgement this evening. A quick resolution, and then we'll be out of your hair. This resolution is for the Underground Utilities Awards, and it will be presented to Mike Tadros and staff, and so I'm going to ask if Mr. Tadros and your staff, if you all could make your ways up to the podium. Welcome, welcome, welcome. a dynamic team, as you're about to hear. And the proclamation reads, whereas the mission of the City of Tallahassee is to provide excellent services and facilities to support the high quality of life for our community, and whereas the city's underground utilities continues to receive top coveted awards and industry-wide acclaim for its unwavering commitment to performance excellence, customer service, environmental stewardship, and continuous improvements in other areas, and whereas the gas utility has received the National 2015 Marketing Sales Award for Digital Marketing from the American Public Gas Association in recognition of the marketing campaign targeting 300 residents of Centerville Conservation Conservancy and surrounding developments. And whereas the gas utility has received the National 2015 Marketing and Sales Award for systems growth from the American Public Gas Association as a result of the utility's partnership with the Tallahassee Builders Association. And whereas the Water Quality Division on behalf of the City of Tallahassee received the 2015 State of Florida Best Tasting Drinking Water Contest Award from the Florida Section American Water Works Association. And whereas the Thomas P. Smith Water Reclamation Facility received the prestigious 2015 Biosolids Residuals Excellence Award from the Florida Water Environment Association for wastewater treatment plants that produce greater than 5 dry tons a day in recognition of promoting the safe management, public acceptance, and beneficial use of biosolids, demonstrating high nutrition content, cost effectiveness, excellence in program management, and technical innovation. And whoever wrote this will be in trouble. These are a lot of words. Whereas in 1992, the Florida Water Environmental Association established the David W. York Water Reuse Award to recognize outstanding water reuse projects in Florida. Projects are evaluated based on environmental quality management, water reuse system, public education information aspects for submittal. And whereas the Thomas P. Smith Water Reclamation Facility received the prestigious 2015 David W. York Water Reuse Award from the Florida Water Management Environment Association, recognizing the City of Tallahassee as a leader of water reuse and the state of Florida in the greater than 15 million gallons per day permitted treatment capacity category. And whereas Sandra Lee, Sandra, are you here? Wave to us. Program engineer has received the Florida Water Environment Association Big Bend Chapter's 2015 Thomas P. Smith Award in recognition of his outstanding work, leadership contributions to the advancement of the wastewater design, operations of regulations, willingness to help others, and dedication to AWT project completion. And whereas Marianne Heileman Walsh, who's behind me, Administrative Specialist to the Wastewater Collection Division, was named the local 2015 Administrative Professional of the Year by Turnabout Inc. for her dedication and commitment of 41 years of service and her many years of community volunteer work. Now, therefore, I, Andrew Gillum, by the authority vested in me as Mayor of the City of Tallahassee, do hereby commend Underground Utilities for the dedication award-winning team and its long-standing role as an esteemed national frontrunner in this industry. And you can see by this resolution they've got a lot going on. Well, y'all give it up for our great team.
Thank you, Mayor Gillum. It's a very pleasure and honor to be recognized, and thanks all the employees in Underground Utility for their passion for providing best-in-class service. I want to thank the Commission, Mayor, City Manager, appointed official, and Assistant City Manager for your support, setting the vision, setting the standard so high for us so we can serve this community to our best. And thank you very much.
Excellent.
This is the auditor. And for this evening's last presentation, I would like to invite the auditor to the podium to present the citizen-centric report. Mr. Fletcher, good to see you. You've got the time.
Welcome back, Mayor, Commissioners.
Thank you.
Madam Manager and fellow officials, it's a pleasure to get up here for a change and talk about something other than an audit. And this afternoon, I'm going to present the 8th Annual Citizen-Centric Report. This report, which we titled The City of Tallahassee, a report to our citizens, addresses activity covered in fiscal year 14 and activity 2015 to date. It is a joint effort by my office and the City Manager's office. The purpose of the report is to provide our citizens with condensed but useful information about their city government. It is intentionally limited to no more than 4 pages to increase the likelihood that people will read it. And if people read it, then hopefully it will not only help them understand their government better, but also spark some interest and provide for more involvement by them in what's going on with their city. The concept did not originate here. It was initiated 10 years ago by the Association of Government Accountants, or AGA, and to give credit where credit is due, my predecessor, Dr. Sam McCall, prepared the first several annual city citizen reports for the city. I'm just continuing that tradition. And to also give credit where credit is due, our administrative specialist, Ms. Michelle Davis, is the key architect for this report. She put a lot of effort into finding the right pictures and working with city management and staff and reviewing the records to obtain the information to prepare the report and then to format the report into 4 attractive pages. And I want to recognize Michelle. Michelle, if you stand up for a second. Everybody say who you are.
Yeah.
I'm going to quickly go over the report.
No.
Mentioned it's limited to 4 pages. Page 1 provides information on the city's organization, purpose, and core values. It defines and contrasts general government services funded from the city's general fund to other city services that are business-like in nature, such as the utilities and airport and fire services. It also tells the reader where the money comes from those 2 categories. For example, for the general fund, it notes that some of the sources are property taxes, licenses and permits, charges for certain services, and annual transfers from utilities. It also provides at the bottom demographics for the city over the last 3 years to include population, median age and income, unemployment rate, and the number of full-time city employees for the last 3 years. The second page identifies the city's top priorities and what has been done to meet those priorities. And those priorities are categorized by the target issues that were developed and adopted by you as the City Commission. There's not time to go over each of those, but examples include the completion and continued success of Cascades Park, the establishment of the bike rack program, an interactive bike map, the city's participation in the funding, and opening of the new comprehensive homeless shelter on West Pensacola Street. On this page on the left-hand side, we also provide some of the city's key performance measures, such as fire and police response times, the number of building permits issued and inspections completed, and the number of airport passengers going through our airport. Page 3 is my favorite page as an accountant, as an auditor. It summarizes in 4 pie charts and 4 tables and just a few paragraphs where our money comes from and then where it's spent. It does this for both the general fund and also for the business type activities that I mentioned earlier. For example, for the general fund, I talked about some of the sources, but it shows that some of the uses includes police, $50 million for this current year, maintenance and Department of Management and Administration, $19 million, Public Works, $19 million, Parks and Rec, $21 million. Page 4 of the report shows the future challenges that are faced by the city, and these are also categorized by target issue. Examples include acknowledging the need for better job growth, addressing the areas that still have high levels of poverty, unemployment, and crime, and the need to support airport development and expansion of air services. Now, I've given kudos to Sam McCall and Michelle Davidson in my office, but also want to acknowledge and thank the city manager and her staff for providing much of the information used in this report, especially in regard to the accomplishments and the challenges. This short annual report has been and will hopefully continue to be a popular report. We make the report available to the citizens at various city locations, including, for example, the airport and the community centers. We also make it available to the Leon County Public Library, and we provide copies to the Leon County School District, which they, in my understanding, they use this report in teaching the civics classes. It's also available on the city's website. We have copies on the tables in the back for any of the public that would like a copy. And as long as we see a continued interest in this report, we plan to continue to produce it.
Thank you very much, Mr. Auditor. I just want to say our office has provided your report to civics classes throughout Leon County. We constantly get requests for material, and so not only does it serve to inform us up here, but it is serving the larger purpose of keeping the community updated. So thank you and your team for the work you put into it. Commissioner Ziffer.
I want to thank you. It's a great report. Now, I hate to be like a downer here, but yeah, thanks, Curtis. I would really like us to consider. I've been in marketing and public relations for a long time, and used to do a lot of printing for my clients. And my clients don't do any printing anymore. It's all web-based or it's emailed, and it sure seems to me, and it's a great report, but the list that you gave, with the exception of maybe the community centers, most of this could be sent to them either in an email format, which requires some redesign, and it's a great design now, but redesigned for email or on our website. And I'm not sure how much we spend on printing, but at this point, based upon every single dollar that we're trying to save, I'm not sure printing this is the best direction for us to go. It's a great report, and we need to continue to do that because it's important for our citizens to go. But when it's completed, I can see it rather, and I know all of us up here have a lot of email lists, broadcast out to just about the whole community. And that way we'd be able to get it into a lot more people's hands, and if schools wanted to use it in their classrooms, they can print it, and other places. So I would like us to at least consider in future years doing it more of an electronic format and use that money or give it back to our citizens.
Okay.
One addition to that.
Mr. Miller.
There's a significant number of folks, and we're trying to add more with AARP and our age-friendly community effort, that read and like to hold tangible things. So some copies are printed. I will be using those for various reasons to people that I know would be more likely to look at it in hand. So possibly a combination. But I agree with Commissioner Ziffer completely that we need to have the ability to send this out to people, and it needs to be in a format that they can easily print it on a page, because sometimes when things get transferred to an electronic format, it comes out basically with the challenges and then the little tiny. So make sure it prints page, 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 page.
I'm sure our communications department could help.
Thank you.
I think we can do that.
Thank you.
I'm sure you
See a
can,
problem
Bert.
in doing
Thank
that
you.
at all.
Thank you very much, Mr. Fletcher. All right, Commissioners, we are now into the section of our meeting where we take citizen input. If there are any citizens who have input on agenda items, we will now take any public comment at the podium. Treasurer Clerk, are there any speakers?
Mr. Mayor, we have two speakers, each of them addressing the quality of life, which is a target issue committee report. I don't know whether they're specific to that report or if it's input for that group, but if you'd like to
We'll
go ahead and take
it now.
Okay, then the first of those is Stanley Sims, followed by Judy Mandrell. Speakers can come to the microphone where Mr. Fletcher, from where he just spoke, and you will have 3 minutes for your remarks. There will be a light just to the left of where your hands are that comes on. It's green and it'll turn yellow and then red, and I'll also let you know when your 3 minutes have expired. If you'll give your name and address for the record, the mic is yours.
It's Stanley Sims. I'm at 1320 Avondale Way. I thought I would kind of cheat and get on Quality of Life and talk about Operation Safe Neighborhood. Is that going to work? Come on, it's innovative, isn't it?
Go right ahead, sir.
Talk about anything you want.
I'm in charge of quality of life, so please go ahead.
Good evening, Mayor and Madam Manager. I am very pleased tonight. I had the opportunity to meet with the Leon County Public Commission Council, and I kind of briefed them on some things that I've been briefing you all on about this jobs program, where I'm trying to get the partners of the city, county, and the Leon County schools to partner to purchase a blanket bond insurance for hard placement workers. Now, the reason why this is very important to me, Commissioner Richardson, because of the relocation of Career Source is going to have a direct impact on the South Side, which is an area you all have put a lot of attention to. So with the twisting of your staff arms, we've modified our plans, and we're going to focus on that area. We'd like to conduct this jobs program as a model over in the South Side. We have some other partners that have come on, Whole Child, the pastors coming before you tonight, some other, I call them, Mayor, boots on the ground individuals. It is a very good plan. We have a collection of partners aboard of this plan. And what I really am coming tonight is asking, so that, because there's a lot of detail, how much is this bond insurance going to cost? What's the overhead? But I did not want to do all of that legwork until I measure the interests of this commission. If you all were interested in this, then I can have the go-ahead and the ability to tell staff, says, this is the interest of the commission. Leon County Commission is interested. I have not gone to the Leon County schools, which would bring the cost down tremendously. I know cost is an issue, but I believe that the magnitude of people that we can hit and the level of service with the partners we have, I think we can get a very good bang of the buck. The geolocation of the house that we're looking at, Madam City Manager, our first walk, it ties into Little Weston, and with the future plans of Little Weston, it would be a very good partnership that would just only enhance that area. So I'm just praying that somebody asks me a question.
One of the ways that we try to vet through these requests are through our target issue process. And Commissioner Miller and Commissioner Ziffer, either way, I guess we could either send it through one of our committees.
Could he meet with staff?
Sure.
And decide where we need to?
Got it.
I'm interested in hearing more.
Got it.
I'm interested in finding out what the cost is.
Do we have a proposal from you?
Yes, I gave you a really vague scale, and a lot of those dynamics, Madam, have changed since then. And I wanted to get a feel of this commission before I started talking with staff in risk management and TCC, because the federal government had this program before and it went away. And so we were just trying to, it's not something new we're innovating. Right. There is a model, and it can be measured for accountability.
Okay. It sounds like we've got Commissioner Miller and Ziffer are willing to bring this into their committee for some further staffing. And then I think you'd get a good, at least, sense of things.
I think any time that you can garner support, excuse me, Mr.
No, please. No, I'll go.
Garner support from not only the city government, the county government, but also the school system, I think that demonstrates some level of interest. So, Stanley, you keep working, and then we'll have you before our target issue group.
Right. Commissioner Miller?
I would like for you to connect tonight, though, with either Michael Parker or Dee Crumpler. Those are the staff to our committee, and make sure they get all your information and contact and begin to work with you to develop an agenda item for us to agenda.
And Commissioner, I've been working with Michael Parker. He's been really I'm where I'm at today because of Michael Parker, because he's given me some very good feedback and some direction of that. So I'm excited
okay, good.
about
So you know how to get in touch with him.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Thank you for coming.
Thank you very much, Brother Walker. Pastor Mandrell.
She wants me to stay, and I told her you all don't bite.
Depends.
I know you. I heard this wonderful woman preach on Sunday, and she was outstanding.
Thank you. Thank you.
Ditto.
Mayor, Madam Manager, Commissioner Miller, to each and every one of you. While I'm standing here, we have been 100% Mayor, City Manager with the city walks, in the community. We're participated. But at the same time that you started it, the Lord placed on me and my husband's heart to start the prayer. Mm-hmm. Pastor Greg James, Pastor Sims, and about 20 other pastors. We have been meeting the first Saturday since June 5th at various churches with over 100 people in attendance. We would like to commemorate the prayer September the 5th at the same place you got started, Mayor and City Commissioner, in that vacant spot on Orange Avenue. And we want to have over 300 people in attendance. Pam Dobson and some of the other ones have already agreed to be there. And I wanted to personally invite you all to come. It's going to be 6 a.m. on September the 5th. That's
8 a.m.
8 a.m. 8 a.m. That's that sunrise service.
I want to make sure
Yes.
I heard that.
On a
right.
Saturday, right?
Yes, sir. 6 a.m. to 7 a.m. And we want to take it back where we.
Can I spend the night there Saturday night?
And that sounds good.
It is on a Saturday. It's on a Saturday, correct?
On a Saturday.
Oh,
Yeah,
Friday
so Friday night.
Friday night. You'll be on time, Commissioner Mattis. And we wanted to personally invite you all. Pastor Greg James, Pastor Sims, and we mentioned it once at the leadership that Mayor Gillum had with us, along with the faith base, and we believe in everything that you're doing, and we believe that prayer is the center of what's going to help our community, and so our hope is to get that area on Orange Avenue. And Miss Angie has been very kind to us and helping us. So that's what we would like to propose.
Thank you very much, Pastor Mandrell, for the invitation. And as Pastor Mandrell said, at the point that we launched Operation Safe Neighborhood, they had also launched that same weekend prayer around our city. And you've had faith leaders coming together praying regularly for the citizens and for the health and well-being of our city. And so just to reiterate, the request or the invitation is for September 5th, 6 a.m., Commissioner Richardson, to 7 a.m. for community prayer.
Yes, sir.
Look
We would
forward to
like to
seeing you.
have it in that same spot. Our desire is to get the same spot where we lunch.
Operation Safe Neighborhood. Yeah, okay. That's on off of Orange Avenue.
Yes.
The field. Great.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Much appreciated. Treasurer Clerk.
That's the last speaker at this time, Mayor. We do have unagended speakers who we will take at the end of the meeting after we've concluded your agenda.
Great. Commissioners, we're now back, I believe, to one pulled item.
Consent first.
We're on consent.
Except for the 9.
Move approval of the consent
Second.
agenda, Mr.
There's a
Mayor.
motion to approve consent with the exception of 9.01. Commissioner, all in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. Motion passes. Commissioner Ziffer, 9.01.
Yeah, my only comment here, and it has nothing to do with the suggested appointee, that's fine. I wanted to raise awareness because I would like to have greater awareness of what the Tallahassee Housing Authority does. In fact, I've requested that perhaps a presentation occur in one of our upcoming meetings. Commissioner Richardson and I in our long-range planning have kind of divided efforts where I'm working on the community school concept, and he's been diligently working towards trying to do some things in housing. So I thought maybe this is an opportunity for him to talk about that a little bit, to raise awareness, because any of those of us that have witnessed what some situations are, we know that they need to change. And so having said that, Commissioner Richardson, if you want to make any comments, just.
Okay. Yeah, thank you, Commissioner Ziffer, we were supposed to have been taking a break, I assume, but like you said, Mr. Mayor, it wasn't much of a break.
Not at all.
But it's been educational. I've spent the past several weeks traveling and talking with just people throughout the community on issues that I knew would be coming back to us, and housing has certainly been one of them. I've worked very closely with Ms. Brenda Williams, who is the Housing Authority Director, and learned after our trip to Tampa that we really have a jewel in Ms. Williams here in Tallahassee. She's very well known and very well respected throughout the Housing Authority community, if you will, is very highly regarded. She came to us after having served as a consultant to housing authorities around the country, and is known as a turnaround person. She goes in and helps struggling housing authorities get turned around. But we had a very good visit, Mr. Mayor and Madam Manager, Commissioners, to both St. Petersburg and Tampa shortly after our break started to look at what they're doing in St. Petersburg in terms of community revitalization. They're doing some fantastic things there. But I tell you, I was blown away by what the Housing Authority is doing, both in St. Petersburg and particularly in Tampa. It is just amazing what they're doing. What grabs your attention initially is this downtown office building that they own, that they bought for $3 million and is now appraised at $15 million. Wow. Right in the heart of downtown Tampa. But, Mr. Mayor, I can tell you what they've done with public housing in Tampa is just short of amazing. Wow. Their housing stock, it's indistinguishable from neighborhoods in the area. If they had not pointed out to me that it was public housing, I wouldn't have known. Yeah. It blends right in with the housing stock in the neighborhoods. They've got a development downtown called the Oracle, and it's 2 high-rise assisted living facilities. They've got 1 high-rise affordable housing unit. They're anticipating a grocery store coming in. They had to build the population base before the grocery store would come in, and I think they're looking at some other development. But this is in the heart of downtown Tampa, and then they're also doing a 150-acre development on the Hillsborough River in downtown Tampa. I mean, these guys, and they've really got it on the ball. And so Brenda and I have been talking since then. She has some ideas of some things she wants to do with the Orange Avenue apartments. They're better than 40 years old, and they have a lot of infrastructure problems. They certainly don't accommodate all the latest in technology for the residents. Her idea is to raise that complex in phases and rebuild it. They've been trying to, of course, acquire the financing for that. And she's looking at some different vehicles. We're hoping to have actually some of the staff from the Tampa Housing Authority come and do a presentation, not only for their board, the Housing Authority board, but maybe our CRA board, because commissioners, the CRA in both St. Petersburg and Tampa plays a critical role in their housing development. And so you all know that that's been one of the things that I've brought forward to our CRA. And they've got some ideas of how we can make that happen without shortchanging any of the other areas in the current CRA. Just recently, I did not make the meeting Tuesday, but I had a meeting with Brenda and her development representative. I have his name is Jorge. I can't remember the name of the company right offhand. I'm one of those AARP members. But we had a very good meeting, and he recommended that that Brenda establish a partnership with the real estate department in the College of Business at FSU. She met with them yesterday. I wasn't able to make the meeting, but she met with them. They were very excited that she reached out to them. They're about to form a partnership, a formal partnership through an MOU. We also have reached out to the School of Architecture at FAMU. The dean of that school is a fraternity brother of mine and a very good friend, Dr. Wright, and so I reached out to him yesterday to join that partnership, because what they've got in mind now, Mr. Mayor and Commissioners, is to come up with a design to redevelop the Orange Avenue corridor from the Orange Avenue apartments east to the VA clinic that's coming up. So it's a very grand vision, and I think Brenda is starting to bring together the partners. And this will not only be affordable housing, but in the surrounding area to include mixed-use housing, market-rate housing. And so if this vision comes to fruition, we're going to see some good things happening in that Orange Avenue area. In the very near future, I'm hoping.
Excellent.
So that's where we are with that, and I'll keep you all apprised as we move forward with that idea.
Excellent.
I'll move 901. Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you
for that opportunity.
Thank you both. There's been a motion and a second to approve item 9.01. All those in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, no. Motion passes 4-0.
4-0.
Yes, 4-0. All right, Commissioners, we're now moving on to any city commission items. I assume
Target issue, right?
assume there are
Target
none.
issues?
Target issue updates.
We have-
Well, it was
we
the
have
commission
two.
target issue updates. Financial viability has been removed. We're at 12.01, quality of life. Commissioner Miller.
Financial viability.
That's been removed.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No worries.
I understand. Thank you very much. Well, we had a lively discussion yesterday afternoon at Quality of Life Target Issue Committee. Everyone was just getting back from the break, and so we made it pretty light, but covered quite a few topics. The first one was we were brought up to speed on the status of the age-friendly communities designation that the mayor presented earlier this evening. So you've all heard about that, and I think that's something that is going to be helpful to us to advertise to seniors. And also, I want to again thank Sheila and also EPR. EPR had a tremendous part in putting together the applications and all the work that was required very quickly. We expected this to take longer than it did, and they got right on it, and here we are tonight. The second thing we discussed was that part of, I don't know whether it's part of Operation Safe Neighborhoods or the CARES program or just the general crime prevention efforts. We have designated the need, we've identified the need for really working with neighborhood associations and figuring out how to encourage people to form neighborhood associations and then really get involved in their neighborhoods. This discussion was a follow-up on some of the comments and recommendations that came from the citizens that attended the city-sponsored community event that we held earlier this year to discuss the challenges that we held at Bethel AME, to discuss the challenges on the south side. Parks and Recreation and Neighborhood Affairs described the capacity building program that they're launching, and which is going to help to build and develop neighborhood-based organizations. Tallahassee Lenders Consortium discussed their programs and services to strengthen the neighborhood organizations through their affiliation with an organization called NeighborWorks, incredible organization with amazing tools just for this very purpose, so we don't have to reinvent the wheel. So we had a long discussion about that. The next topic that we talked about was the community school initiative that Commissioner Ziffer is working on, and I'd like for him to just at this point add a few comments about that because he can describe that better than I can.
Sure. We've talked about this already a couple times. Much as Commissioner Richardson has enjoyed his break, so have I. I've met with a great many people. We've got about 20 folks coming to City Hall on Tuesday morning at 9 a.m. representatives from our universities, from both neighborhood services and Bond Community Health, from not-for-profits, from just about anybody associated with healthcare. We've got representatives from the Orange Avenue Neighborhood Association. I mean, it's just about everybody you can imagine that might be impacted by what a community school could do in that area. Superintendent's coming. I know Dee Dee Rasmussen is coming. I have a feeling I'm going to have to publicly notice it because we'll probably have some other crossovers. So, Michelle, make sure I get with you on that. And we'll see where this goes. We'll have on the phone the folks from the University of Central Florida that have got some grant money available in the next school year. But this is gaining momentum. It's gaining traction. I know, Mayor, this has some direct relation to what you're trying to do with early childhood education. Our goal, I think, is probably elementary school, but this would reach even lower, all the way down to pre-VPK. It's important for all the children in that area to have some assistance in what we're trying to do with healthcare, with food, with education, and with what Commissioner Richardson's doing in housing. I think we can make a substantial difference. So that's my brief update on that. That meeting is Tuesday at 9 a.m. in the Tallahassee room, as I recall.
Excellent.
Good. Okay.
Excellent.
Thank you. Our next topic of discussion was the Fifth Avenue Plaza. It has been out there for 2 or 3 years now, and yet beyond the first concert, there really hasn't been any utilization. So we want to really get down into identifying what the obstacles to use are. Basically, representatives from Parks and Rec and from the police department discussed the current policies and the costs that are associated with the security when a street closure is required. And it's one thing to close Fifth Avenue, but sometimes there's a desire to close Thomasville Road too, which is an entirely new and very monumental task. So it's not just an easy thing to do, and we require a much higher level of policing if that occurs. City staff is going to go forward and investigate the costs for installing a bollard system that would allow the temporary closure of Fifth Avenue without a lot of fanfare, in a way that would not require public safety personnel to be there for that road closure. So, and they're also going to investigate other ways that we can encourage utilization of the facility because it's been built. And we have another one on Palmer Avenue. These were parts of Sense of Place initiatives, and we really would like to see them being used by the merchants associations and the businesses and the residents that live in the vicinities. The next topic was it was called Love to Ride Tallahassee, and EPR and planning staff presented a concept on an education program that could increase the use of bicycles for people commuting to work. This obviously has the support of several local partners like Commuter Services in North Florida. We were supportive of the concept, but we encouraged staff to expand their horizons as far as looking at costs. They have a grant, but we weren't quite ready to, at that point of this discussion, go forward and ask them to bring this to the Commission as a request. Next, we had an update on the downtown trolley. I know everybody has been hearing about these trolleys now for years, and you're probably wondering if there really ever will be a trolley anywhere in the vicinity. My frustration has always been that I see them everywhere else I go, but they're not here. We have the Rhythm Route that's running on Friday and Saturday nights. It's been successful and is a popular addition to moving people around the community in a way that's much safer than if they were all getting into their cars. This is from 6 a.m. or 6 p.m. to 2:30 a.m. on Friday and Saturday nights. But these will soon be replaced with 2 trolleys that we've received 5 from their 2010. We've received 5 from South Florida, West
Beach.
Palm Beach. And they're here, but two of them are functioning as they should. Well, at least up to the standards that we expect as far as safety, et cetera. Those two will be out on the road, and hopefully some others to follow, but that should happen very soon. Let's see, we're supposed to do a soft start later this month in August, and then schedule a launch in September. And finally, we had something that I added to the agenda, and this is we have some issues with dogs running loose in town, and this is not to take one side or the other of that, but it's been pointed out to me that if there were working dogs that were contracted to actually do work. An example would be, in the past, you all may have known about the sheep that we actually had that were controlling kudzu. That was a sheep, a shepherd, and border collies that herded the sheep. They were wonderful, but the shepherd left town, and we haven't been able to find anyone else to do this. But the fact is that hopefully we will. So if anybody out there wants to gather together their sheep and go to work for the city of Tallahassee to control kudzu, they're the most effective tool we have. That's an aside. This topic was basically that there is no allowance for that type of use of a dog, and we wanted just to ask the staff to look at the ordinance and see if they could include that. We're also going to be looking at ordinances from other cities to make that final recommendation. So that was it.
Question, Mr. Mayor.
Sure you do. I can't wait.
I feel responsible and sheepish.
Big comedy hour.
because I was here during the kudzu sheep. But what are we having the dogs do? I was confused.
We are not having any dogs.
You said there were stray dogs.
That is an example. That's an example of the type of use that border collies are and other dogs are put to on occasion in a contracted way. And yet our own effort in the case of the sheep, that was just an example.
Yeah, but sheep aside, what
wouldn't be allowed under our current ordinance is the bottom line. So we want to make allowance for that if it is just in case. There are people. It's been brought up to me that someone has a dog and a contract. Now there are neighborhood issues related to that subject, but it did bring up basically a gap in our own.
But a contract to do what?
They have to have a contract to do whatever herding they would like to do.
Oh. Okay.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Okay.
There's no herding. This does not have anything to do with the city of Tallahassee at all. We're not hiring anybody unless there's a shepherd out there. We need some sheep.
Those dogs have name tags?
Yes, they're licensed and permitted and the whole 9 yards. Anyway, I had to add it because we talked about it at the meeting. So with that, I will end. And
thank you for the roundup.
Yeah.
That was good. Actually, a lot of good stuff in there. There was one thing missing, and we deserve to acknowledge you for it, which is you have worked tirelessly for several years now on this wayfinding. Even though I don't think we found another name for it, but it is finally up. For any of you all who have moved throughout downtown, and it actually occurred to me to mention this because I saw what looked like maybe families bringing their kid to town, and they were in downtown, and they went up to it on the Monroe Street and use it as a guide. And I think as the state's capital, that's exactly what you want to have happen. People who visit this community, we get thousands, tens, maybe hundreds of thousands of visitors a year into this area who before really had no guideposts. And so, Commissioner, thank you for your work on
Literally,
that.
no guidepost.
Literally no guideposts.
It's a huge draw. The biggest tourist attraction in the city is right across the street. So I'm very glad to hear that. Thank you for adding that.
Absolutely. Long-range planning. Commissioner Ziffer.
Yeah, we didn't talk about working dogs. No. And we just had our meeting, so my report is going to be fairly brief. And a lot of that has to do with, more than anything, it's that these things will come back to us. There was a recent Supreme Court ruling that has to do with sign regulation that basically, let's just say it affects every municipality in the country. And it is going to require all of us to make some changes to the way we currently regulate signs. So our legal department is working on some suggestions. We're not going to be the one to recreate the wheel here. We're going to see what other folks are doing, but we'll bring something back before the commission because we'll need to deal with it in some fashion. We also had a discussion that we're going to have, Growth Management Department is going to start to have some meetings with stakeholders to have a broader view of our sign code regulations. As you may recall, a couple months ago, we did some tweaks that mainly had to do with multimodal. There's some far greater issues. Some of them have to do with just have times have changed. Our sign ordinance still contains a lot of language that have to do with, remember those signs where you actually put letters up?
Oh, yeah.
Right,
Marquees.
well, yeah. Or the signs that used to have the flashing light and that people would park them in front of their buildings. And so most of that's gone away, but there are new signs, and so we need to deal with those. So Growth Management is going to be going through a process to come up with some changes to our regulations, so that'll come back to us. We had a presentation on a market demand study that was done on the fairgrounds. It's a rather lengthy document. I'm sure we can circulate it to everybody, but to summarize briefly, it's basically what they came back with is our existing fairgrounds except on steroids, a far greater and a more significant exhibition building, up to 50,000 square feet, substantial price tag associated with that, some beautification improvements, substantial price tag. The county's leading on this. It's their fairgrounds, but it is blueprint money that conceivably may go towards this. So we'll keep you up to date on that. I think we were a little disappointed because the Commissioner Richardson and I, we were hoping that there was going to be greater interest on the part of the private sector to go there, but their report suggested that until a lot more people live in that area, that no matter what we do at the fairgrounds, there's probably not a whole lot of interest. Hopefully that'll change. If the improvements are made and there are basketball tournaments or volleyball tournaments and other sporting activities, and not to mention the normal fair and other things, maybe that will change. There'll be greater interest, but we were hoping that there'd be a better report on that. And that was
it.
About it.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioners, for very detailed reports. A lot of work happening one-on-one and in these committees, and a particular salute to, amongst all the other big issues that we're dealing with, it seems that folks are still being extremely innovative and creative around ways we can meaningfully serve the community. So I want to acknowledge that and thank you all for that. We're now at item 13.01, introduction of ordinances. Attorney Hudson.
Yes, we only have one ordinance for introduction tonight. Ordinance number 15Z22, an ordinance of the City of Tallahassee, Florida, amending the Oxbottom Meadows Planned Unit Development Concept Plan on the official zoning map of the City of Tallahassee, adopted and established by the City Commission, providing for conflict, severability, and providing an effective date. The first and only public hearing on this ordinance will be August 26, 2015, at 6 p.m. here in City Commission chambers.
Great.
Thank you.
Show the item introduced. We're now on to policy formation, item 14.01. Madam City Manager.
This item is approval of Terminal Rehabilitation Phase 2 Design Project Task Assignment. And Commissioners, as you know, the Tallahassee International Airport is planning improvements to the passenger terminal facility to improve the functionality, the efficiency, and the conditions of the main public areas beginning this September. This agenda item tonight seeks to continue those improvements with the design of a second phase of terminal improvements, which include the security screening checkpoint as well as the life safety systems of the passenger terminal facility. Chris Curry is here. And Chris, would you like to make a brief presentation on this item? And we can also segue into the next item.
Move approval. Second.
All right.
As a
You don't need to talk, Chris.
motion to approve in a second, is there any interest in, just to say, and I know we've, Commissioner Maddox has been our point on this and may have other comments, but you all have been working extremely diligently out there, and it's your efforts have been recognized not only by citizens but also folks who are visiting this community. Sometimes they want to know why they can't get a sandwich before getting through security, but I know y'all are fixing that. And I keep telling them greater is coming, and so to be patient with us. The only question I would have is from a timeline perspective, what do you all anticipate will be the timeline where folks will be displaced out of that part of the airport prior to getting through security, Chris?
Good afternoon, Mayor, Commissioner, Madam Manager. The phase one of the project, that's going to kick off in September, but also the transition with the concessionaire. So we expect the majority of the concessionaire renovations to be done by the end of December. So we should have really good food offerings on both sides at that time.
Great.
So phase one includes the construction prior to security and beyond security?
Phase one will be the year-long project that involves the terrazzo flooring, renovated ticket counters, rental car counters up to the security checkpoint. But also at the same time, the concessionaire that's dealing with the retail food and beverage will be renovating their facilities and be done by the end of the year. So January, you'll see the full food service offerings on both the air side and the land side of the airport.
Great. Commissioners, any other questions on that item? There's been a motion and a second to approve item 14.01. All those in favor, let it be known by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. Motion passes unanimously. Mr. Curry, do you have photos that accompany 14.02? What's the...
Well, for 14.02, that's actually the master planning process for the airport that will cover the next 20 years of development at the airport. So there's no photos accompanied with that. However, that process will eventually involve the public and other stakeholders to help us plan out the next 20 years of development.
Move approval.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. And again, kudos to you and to your team for the great planning work you all are about to undertake. All those in favor of the motion, let it be known by saying aye. 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 Those opposed, no. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
We're now on to item 14.03. Madam Manager.
This item is approval of local agency program agreement with FDOT for the construction of 6th Avenue sidewalks and associated pedestrian improvements. And Commissioners, we acknowledge that there's been a long identified need within the community for increasing the east-west pedestrian corridors in Midtown. To satisfy that need, the Capital Regional Transportation Planning Agency adopted the 6th Avenue Improvements Project in their 2010 Transportation Improvement Program, thus making it eligible for state funding. Between 2011 and 2012, the CRTPA's consultant, through discussions with the city and county staff, citizens, and the Midtown Merchants Association, refined the scope of the project to provide sidewalks on both sides of 6th Avenue between Monroe Street and Gadsden Street, and on Gadsden Street between 6th Avenue and Ingleside Avenue, along with some intersection improvements within that corridor. In December 2013, you approved a LAP agreement for the design of the project. In March of 2014, you approved a subsequent LAP agreement for easement acquisition for the project, and this item is requesting your approval of a LAP agreement which will provide the construction funding for the project. Construction is expected to commence in January of 2016, and Gabe Menendez is here to answer any questions you might have.
Second.
There's a motion and a second to approve. Anything you need to add? Seeing none. All those in favor, let it be known by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. Motion passes unanimously. Thank you, Mr. Menendez. Item 14.04, Madam Manager.
This is also a Gabe Menendez item, approval of a memorandum of agreement with the District Joint Venture, LLC, for the design and construction of Gain Street South Bicycle Boulevard, and that is Phase 2 of that project. The Gain Street South Bicycle Boulevard is a project developed to promote bicycle connectivity within the Gain Street corridor between Stone Valley Way and Railroad Avenue, as well as to provide a corridor for service vehicles and alternate resident access for developments on the south side of Gain Street. In order to minimize construction conflicts between this project and the ongoing redevelopment along Gain Street, you authorized the construction of the first phase of this project from Railroad Avenue to the deck development through a memorandum of agreement with North American Properties.
Move approval.
Second.
Okay.
Anything else?
No.
All right. There's a motion and a second to approve. All those in favor, let it be known by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. Motion passes unanimously. Commissioners, we're now at the point of the meeting for unagended speakers. Treasurer Clerk, are there any speakers?
There are. We have a number of speakers, Mayor. The first will be Connie Hicks Evans. And as with our earlier speakers, I'll remind speakers to come to the microphone to my right, your left, and each speaker will have 3 minutes for his or her comments. Connie Hicks Evans?
Is here.
Oh, I was looking on the wrong side of the room. Thank you, madam. There you go. And she will be followed by Harry Brown. If you will come to this far microphone, that way the camera can pick you up, I think.
Oh, yeah. We're going to do that during the...
If each speaker will provide their name and address for the record, we'll appreciate it.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Commissioners, council, etc. I'm Dr. Connie Hicks Evans, a resident of Tallahassee for over 32 years. I think I know most of you, and I'm probably here with requests that's not usual and that you may not have had before. I live at 851 Circle Drive. That's right across the street from the Chapman Duck Pond and up the street from the new Cascade Parks. It's in Woodland Drives, which is the south side. Okay? I'm here because the 21st, which is Friday, will mark the anniversary of my husband, Dr. Charles Evans' death. And it will be 2 years. And I want to, first of all, thank you, commissioners, because you all were wonderful to us during his preparation and homegoing. Some of the things that the city of Tallahassee did, and I am here to thank you. Let's see, I think city manager Anita Favors came over to the house. So did Mayor Marks at the time. That meant an awful lot to us, that you would take time from your busy schedules to visit with someone that had worked with you very good and sometimes hounded you. I'm sure Scott knows exactly what I'm talking about. But my husband was the kind of person that would talk to you and try to resolve things. He was very concerned about Tallahassee and the Tallahassee community. In fact, I have chosen what I want to say to you all, as well as I have thank you cards that I have prepared that are a little history, and I want to give them to each of you individually. They did go through the screening, so there's nothing on them or what have you. I want to give you yours personally. But I'm going to talk to you a little bit about what my husband would talk to you about, and that is his theme. His theme is a Western, the good, the bad, and the ugly. That was his favorite movie. And I'm talking in terms of Tallahassee and where we are now. Okay? I'll start with the good. The good is that right now, again, thanks for all of the love that you showed during his passing. As a result of his involvement in Tallahassee, we were able to get our first African-American city manager. We were also able to get our first Tallahassee Police Department. I'm not saying that he did that, but what I am saying is that he was involved in the selection process and making sure that equality and all the other things happen. Because of his involvement as a professor at FAMU and 15 years with the Tallahassee branch of the NAACP, the good is that we do have a very diverse job community. We also have a very diverse living community. Because of him and his efforts, we also have, let's see, I lost my place, dialogue between the community as well as other organizations. The good is that your commission was instrumental in the Tallahassee branch of the NAACP receiving a home on Brevard Street, and for that, we say thank you. Also, the good, and I'm going to talk about now, is that the chamber, as well as others, decided to table the conference, which was to be in Destin next year, for another location. That is good, and that is historic. He would be pleased. He would also be pleased that his mentee, our mayor, stood up for what he believed and did not attend that conference for conscientious reasons. He would also be pleased in you, Ms. Favors, in the fact that you are leaving and you're leaving so gracefully. Really hate that. The bad, let's talk about that. The bad is, well, I'll start off first of all with the treatment of Ms. Favors and her wish to resign. That was not professional. Just want you to know that it was not professional. The second thing is that Mayor Maddox, I know that you and, I'm sorry, Commissioner Maddox, you and my husband shared a love of antique cars. I want to thank the city police because you all escorted our family and 21 antique cars through Tallahassee to Bethlehem Mead. That was wonderful. The bad, again, Scott, is when my husband stood out in the street with Springtime Tallahassee to defy having Andrew Jackson as that figure. So, Mayor, you are following his footsteps. He would stand up for what he believed to be right for the citizens. The beautification of Cascade Park in downtown Tallahassee is wonderful, but I think it's divisive. Okay, and I think he would think so too. And I'll get to that when I get to the ugly part.
And Dr. Evans, we got about another minute.
Okay, I can go faster. The bad is that the Gaines Street Cascade Park represents the divide between FAMU and FSU. If you would look at it, you'll see all the beautiful things happening on this side. On that side, it's not equitable. You can look at the fencing. It's not the same. Okay, quality. Also, if you would look again on the south side, which is where I live, streets are terrible. Sidewalks are terrible. And there's no beautification, no nice plants and things like on the other side of towns, okay? The other thing and the final thing I want to say is keep it up. You're doing a good job. I know it's not easy to represent us and to work with us, but keep it up, and thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Evans, and thank you for your continued involvement in our community. I know all of us knew Dr. Evans and had a tremendous amount of love and respect for him, and so I appreciate you honoring him this evening.
I just want to share that. This is the
Please.
card that we crafted for you all. Has some historical places on there here, and as you remember him.
Thank you very much, honey.
Thank you.
I was just going to quickly say thank you because you remind us that no matter what we do, we can always do better.
Yeah.
And we can always try harder. And we can always do better for everyone that lives in our community. So you come anytime. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker.
Next speaker is Harry Brown. He is followed by Ali Grant.
Thank you.
May I like some help with the overhead, please?
Oh, wow. Stay up here. Stay up. Very nice.
Yeah, just let it stay like that. That needs something. Okay, thank you. Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I'm Harry Brown, and I reside at 5431 Crump Road, Tallahassee. I come to you out of concern for employees of the city of Tallahassee with my hand on the Bible to tell the truth and nothing but the truth, so help me God. Please take a look at the overhead. Some of you who are sitting closer may be able to see it, and others won't. But you will see a lot of fabricated lies about me that span a period of 14 years. Scott, I would like to ask you, how is it that you have such malicious racial hatred toward a person, to have these kind of lies put together about a person who spent 21 years in the Air Force with nothing but loyal and dedicated service, and come here to the city of Tallahassee and had to be treated like a dog? I wish everyone in this commission chambers could read what's up there. That span a period of 14 years, and I harassed woman after woman. How you wouldn't even keep a man, nobody around who would do that even one time, especially a black man. And you're going to say I harassed people for 14 years and you kept me? That is not true. Who are you fooling? You're fooling nobody but yourselves. And Anita, shame on you that you would put this together for Scott. A bona fide racist. That means, as one reporter said, you help the enemy. And that makes you the biggest Uncle Tom that ever walked the streets of Tallahassee. And that's sad that you do this to your own black people. You didn't only do it to me, you did it to others. And it's shameful that you would do that. And then you had me sign some crazy piece of paper saying that I would not talk about it. How do you do that to anyone? Shame on you. I say to Commissioner Maddox and Anita Favors that it takes deviant minds to compile such garbage against a person who honorably served his country, defending each and every one of you for 21 years. Anita, a couple meetings ago, you refused to sit on the dais because you knew what I was coming to say. Because you don't want to hear the raw truth. You both quickly found out that I do not dabble in immorality. But everybody can check your records, and you see what your records are all about. And Commissioner Maddox, you bring the same kind of malicious racial hatred to the commission that existed in Charleston, South Carolina.
You know,
excuse me, your time's expired.
Thank you, sir.
Ms. Smith,
I
looked at how much time Ms. Smith had.
You're right. We were more generous.
Beg your pardon?
We were more generous, but your time's expired.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. You
Next
sure
speaker,
don't like to hear
please.
the truth.
The next speaker, Mayor, is Allie Grant, followed by Curtis Baines.
Ms. Grant, please.
Good afternoon,
Good afternoon.
Mayor, and to the Mayor of the city, Mr. Andrew Gilliam, to our city manager, Mrs. Anita Favors Thompson, and all the other city officials in your respective places. I am Allie Grant, of the Griffin Heights Neighborhood Association, and I'm here to express some concerns about our neighborhood and other concerns in our area. First of all, we like to acknowledge and appreciate the work that is being done in our community, coming from the city of Tallahassee, and all the work that you have done. First of all, I do have another officer with me tonight, and this is one of our off months, so there are other members that are unable to be here tonight, but I'm here as a voice for Griffin Heights Neighborhood Association. Concerning the right-of-ways being cut by the city, the right-of-ways within the neighborhood, some of the streets in our neighborhood are not being cut at all in terms of the right-of-way. Some of them are not being cut at all. Specifically, Preston Street, from Woodward Street all the way to Basin Street, looks like a wilderness. Callaway Street is where I live, and the streets are being, the right-of-way is cut from the beginning of Indiana Street to half of the street of Callaway Street, half of the street. Part of that street is where a convenience store is on the right-hand side, and the other part on that street is where a holding pond. Well, I called the foreman back on that particular concern, and they did come back a few days after that, and they cut that street. Now, they're telling us that there's a new policy in place that they can only cut where residents call and request this specific service. This is what we are being told, that they only come where residents call for this specific service. But might I say to you, there are people in the neighborhood and the community who do not know this. There are senior older people who do not know this. So as a result of that, our area needs to be a little bit better service in terms of cleanup. Okay, that's our main concern. Now, there's a holding pond at the corner of Callaway Street, Joe Louis Street, and Alabama Street. Now, it's being partially carried up to part. And I say that because in talking to the foreman who is in charge of that specific job, in charge of maybe most of the holding ponds in the city, he says to me that there is someone that cuts the grass of the holding pond. Well, and I've said to him, that may be true that they cut the grass, but there are so many other things that need to be done for the upkeep and the appearance in that particular holding pond. They leave the limbs, they leave the tree branches, they leave all the debris, they leave all that out. All the growth on the fences need to be cleared out, but they do just a limited amount, and they are finished with that. Okay, that's another concern. The Riley Park in our area over there, the Riley Park. Some things have been done, and unfortunately, this had to be done as a result of gun violence. Very unfortunately, what has been done is because of gun violence. There are some more things that need to be done.
Excuse me, your
We
time
are told
expired.
that because of budgetary reason that they cannot be done at this point. We have been sitting in that area with the wilderness growing in that area for many, many years, and it's very unfortunate that the appearance of our community has to be in that state. So that's another concern of our area.
Ms. Grant, Ms. Grant, your time has expired, but it has. But Gabe Menendez is coming down from the back there. I'm assuming you probably have a list, and we've been I saw Curtis vigorously noting, and I've also been taking notes. If you could provide that list to Gabe, who is most chiefly responsible for some of the right-of-way maintenance issues, we'll be sure to look after those.
Okay, and I'm just here to request your service because it's always no money. The rest of the city, I don't mean to be partial, but other areas in the city are not kept in that manner, and I appreciate some assistance and some relief in that area.
Absolutely. Thank you very much.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes,
I want to commend her for coming because that, and Commissioner Miller, that's what you talked about earlier in terms of the neighborhood associations and forming neighborhood associations and them being involved and advocating for themselves, and we certainly appreciate you coming. That's not the first time I've heard of conditions like that in some of the older neighborhoods in town, but I can assure you we're on top of it, and we'll stay on top of it and make sure that you all get the same or similar services that are afforded any other neighborhood in this city, because you all pay taxes and are citizens of this community like anybody else. And so thank you again for coming and bringing those things to our attention. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Commissioner Richardson. Any further speakers?
Next speaker is Curtis Baines. He will be followed by Tom Thiebaud, Nature.
That was weird. I didn't see Andrew.
Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem, Commissioners, Curtis Baines, 1323 East Tennessee Street. Welcome back from your vacation. I wanted to take a moment this evening to touch on three things, the first two I'm going to go pretty quickly, but the first is I didn't want too much time to elapse from the time of the event to commend you on your efforts with respect to the red light cameras. I know that some of you wanted to continue them, and I know it's been a point of discussion, at least from my perspective, for the last, 5 years. I understand that those have all been disconnected now, and I just wanted to take a moment before any other noise enters into our conversation to acknowledge that and commend you for those efforts. I think that was a wise public policy. The second is, as the budget discussions heat up over the next month, I wanted to take a moment this evening to remind you of my comments before you may get inundated with others and drown out what I might have to say, is that I would prefer that you go back and take a look at your millage and keep your millage at the current rate and go back and adjust your expenditures and your budget within your budget priorities and constraints, rather than increase the millage rate or the fees for garbage. The third thing that I wanted to touch on real quick is that I wanted us to keep in perspective this notion of what is, I think, calls for police services and relative community safety. I've gone back and looked, and I've never felt unsafe in Tallahassee. I know there's a lot of discussion, and every time we talk about the budget, we talk about how violent crime and that sort of thing. So I went back and took a look at it. I looked at originally over a 10-year period, from around 2005 through 2014, and you see it's relatively flat. It undulates a little bit, but it's relatively flat. When I went to studied public administration, I heard of this rule, general rule, the 80-20 rule, and that said that you're going to spend 80% of your resources trying to solve 20% of your problem. And what I'm wondering is if we are not at the point where we are going to end up spending much more resources and get less and less return on that. And the question I had when I looked at this is the same one you had. What were we doing between 1991 and 2005 that we drove the index crimes down to the current level? Maybe that's what we ought to be going back and doing, is taking a look at that and redoing that.
Thank you, Mr. Banks. Next speaker.
Next speaker is Tom Thiebaud, and he will be followed by Daniel Withers.
Good evening, good afternoon, Commissioners. Good to see you again.
Good to see you.
I hope that you will extend me a second section of time, because this first portion, I would like to talk about the agenda items that you talked about. I put it in two papers, and one was for agenda items and one was for non-agenda.
Oh,
so I'll take this time to take a section of time to talk about the agenda items that I have, if I may.
Mayor, we did have two. He did have two speaker forms, but I, at the time, was not able to identify a specific agenda item to which they were addressed. So I assume they were all on a group of items.
Okay, great. Let's go.
Well, you decide when you hear these. The water resources engineering. I used to be an automotive machinist. I've got a design that would give you a lot of cleaning of the water, the water canals here in town. Those canals have a very steep wall on the canals. Some of them are straight up and down, but a lot of them are at an angle. You'd be able to plant some very beneficial plants on those, herbs and extremely beneficial other types of usage plants as well, and have an irrigation system that when that water runs, it'll actually pump its own water up through that irrigation system, through the running water. Also, those waterways are on roadways. You can have roadway ETDs that will capture the weight of vehicles and pump that water as well. And any extra energy, you could use it for producing electricity with these roadway ETDs, collapsible speed bumps. But concerning the, also in doing that, you would clean the water as well as water all these really beneficial herbs and other plants that people could actually, you could actually have companies that will use these for business. And also, since there's herbs, all organic quality would be, there'd be a lot of herbs. Prices go down a lot, so people could actually put those in their food and get their health back in their eating habits. The health care, there's what I gave you a few weeks ago in that write-up concerning potluck massage parties. Okay, if you get the information out there, I've been working with my nerve endings for over 10 years. I got a lot of problems with my body. I never take pain medicine. I never have to deal with the pain. Main thing is information. If the information isn't your glands and organs don't make what's needed to fix the problem. Okay? Your body can take care of itself, but you have to work with it. The medical field does not teach us to work with it. The sinus drainage, main adjusting of your immune system. That sinus drainage is so pure. What they were talking about earlier about dementia, or about Alzheimer's and dementia, is that you got a passage that goes directly into your brain. You don't get your brain sense of smell by the nervous system. Same way with, you got a passageway in the back of the eyeball and the inner ear. That shows how beneficial that sinus drainage is. That pure sinus drainage is very liquid. When it has bacteria in it, it gets thick, globby, and sticky. That's what your tonsils are for. It separates it. Pure stuff goes into your stomach to adjust your immune system. That's the way the body works. In that same factor, that pure sinus drainage can be pushed up into the brain canal. So you work the sinuses, get that drainage working, hold the nose.
Excuse me, your 3 minutes have expired.
Well, may I talk about my unagenda items?
Yes, thank you. We'll just restart the time for the unagenda. Thank you.
Okay, the question, the plateau that I told you I reached a few weeks or a few sessions ago when I spoke. Okay, I'm pretty disappointed. Not one of you asked me questions. Okay, how I had factors that proved what I said is true. Okay, somebody with that kind of a plateau, that kind of a statement, I would imagine every one of you would have asked me questions and in detail, and I actually researched those answers that I would give you to make sure that those were correct. Not one of you did. Okay, that energy, the belief system that mankind, that the religious beliefs have built up on mankind, that mankind created this disharmonious, self-destructive energy, that's not true. I found clay 7 feet up inside of a mango tree. One of my stories, what I think I gave it to you. If I don't, I've got a copy of it I can give to you. Dinosaur, Brachiosaurus. That Brachiosaurus will cause that creation of that energy. Okay? We are created to fix that energy. The life system has formed mankind to be able to compose the life system within a single organism and to be able to comprehend that self-destructive energy and to correct it. We're not doing that. We're following it. We're letting it lead. Allowing it to lead us into a self-destruction. Okay. That new waterway, or the new roadway they're building from Cascades Park down through Railroad Road. There's a water holding pond right across from the Crank It Up. I've got a camp there right now, and where my camp is at, I would like to build a house there. A small shack that would actually have an extendable third floor, and actually even a rooftop extension above that. But my Norris natural stream system, that would show the conflict of energy. The electricity is one of the main promoting forces that manipulates people's thinking and feelings to be in the same direction that the energy that is used to make electricity is going. Electricity has electrical ions that make it a universal connection to manipulate the environment where the electricity is being used to be in the same direction that said energy is made in, or that the energy is in that's making said electricity. This experiment would prove that. Also, it would provide a great place for the community to be able to sit down, relax, have some awesome music, or listen to, or read their newspapers, magazines, whatever. A great place for the community to gather and relax and enjoy some company and such. That's pretty much it for me.
Great.
Oh, public transportation. Tally, what I would like to do with the transportation with Star Metro, if you can get somebody to talk to me about this, I've got roadway ETDs that can be put on a bus stop. And
Excuse me, your time has expired.
You will not use any fuel for this bus system. No fuel at all. You could actually even have some workout seats in the bus, so people that just choose to work out, they can actually take the bus ride around town and work out and help to power the bus.
Excuse me, your time's expired.
Interesting. It would be easier to put that into it.
Great. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next speaker is Daniel Withers, followed by Ashley Gay.
Afternoon, commissioners,
Afternoon.
manager, mayor, attorney, clerk, treasurer. Hope you all had a good summer. You hadn't seen me all summer. I thought I'd give you all a break from the Live Oak Plantation sidewalk comment, but I'm back. First of all, I wanted to thank the city manager and Gabe Menendez and their crew for the poll y'all sent out, and I thought it was very nicely done. I was worried when y'all said y'all were going to do it, how it would turn out, but I think it was very fair and sent out. The reason I'm here is there was a follow-up, it looks like an addendum to the poll, which is not, that states, to there, that actually pretty much calls out Gabe Menendez and the crew for, it says, you received by mail, however, you should be not deceived by the survey. Then it goes on and says false choices, and then rosy assurances by city staff members. It goes on and pretty much downgrades the poll that was sent out, and it was sent to all the owners. I got my poll, which I'm going to fill out and send in, but I just thought you guys should know that there was a follow-up poll letter sent out that downgrades the poll that you sent out, and it's kind of like an amendment, and I thought that was very tacky, to say the least, because it really sheds poor light on the good work you guys are trying to do. Regardless of whether we get a sidewalk or not on Live Oak, I've kind of resigned myself to the fact that it's going to get done or it's not going to get done. I think the right thing will happen. I just pray that will happen. The sidewalk is needed. I do want to say that I get irritated when I hear about the north side versus the south side. I understand there are places on the south side that need attention. I get it. But me personally, driving on Live Oak Plantation Road, who a lot of people do, whether economical, part in life they use that road. 5,000 cars a day do. And I've almost hit somebody. I've almost hit a low-income person walking down that road to their job because they're going from the Mabry subdivision over to the area where TJ Maxx and that. I mean, it's a very dangerous road to walk on. There are a lot of people that don't walk on it because it is dangerous. They take other paths, but this would be a really good way to get through. And I would just urge you to not take this Live Oak luxury sidewalk that's for the people that live on it only attitude versus the south side who doesn't get anything attitude, and really look at it for what it is. It's for the people that need to get to places. Of course I would use a sidewalk if it's out there, but I don't use that because there's not one, and I don't want to get hit by a car. So I just wanted to say thank you very much for the poll. I think y'all did a great job. I'm offended by what the people did to sabotage your poll in the very next mail. And I just hope you guys take that into account when you're getting all the polls back. Thank you very much.
Could I get a copy of that?
Give you my copy.
Leave a copy? Thank you. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker?
The next speaker, Mayor, is Ashley Gay. Then following her will be O'Neill Jackson.
Thanks.
Good afternoon. My name is Ashley Gay. I reside at 1196 Rafferton Drive, Tallahassee, Florida. I'm present today to discuss my concern regarding treatment I received after I was subjected to inappropriate videos. On July the 1st, I received an email from Public Works Administrative Service Manager Greg Wickerson, which contained links to several inappropriate and racial offensive videos. On July the 2nd, I reported the incident and met with HR Representative Vicki Montgomery and Public Works Director Gabe Menendez. During the meeting, it was suggested that I solicit the video links. Even though Gabe was fully aware of the showing of the videos to other employees, but he neglected to disclose their information to HR at the time. After the meeting, I forwarded Mr. Wickerson's email to Vicki Montgomery and informed her that other people was subjected to the inappropriate videos 2 days prior to me being exposed to them. On July the 6th, Vicki, Gabe, and I met again. During this meeting, it was clear that the direction Gabe wanted to take this. He made it clear that Greg and I will report back to work the following day, July the 7th. Because in Gabe's words, work had to get done. Gabe wanted to treat the incident as a minor mistake. I left the meeting with Vicki and Gabe and moved forward with filing a formal complaint with Equity and Workforce Development. The investigation took place during July the 6th through the 13th. During this time, Greg and I was placed on administrative leave pending the completion of the investigation. On July the 9th, I contacted EWD investigator to inquire about my return because I was informed that Gabe met with Public Works division managers and supervisors to tell them that I would not be returning to work. She informed me that the investigation was not yet completed and no actions has been discussed. On July the 15th, I received a call from Vicki Montgomery stating that management decided it was in the best interest of the organization for me not to return. When I inquired about the retrieval of my items, she stated they can be boxed and shipped to me, or Public Works HR consultant Toya Owens can escort me to retrieve them. Upon ending the call, my badge and email access was terminated. However, during this same time frame, Greg's badge and email was still activated with no restrictions. HR and management treated me like I was the perpetrator and the person who sent and showed the videos, while Greg was treated like the victim and was allowed to return back to work. Since his return, Greg has made
Excuse me, your time has expired.
And damaged my character, image, and work ethics. I have enjoyed my time working with the city of Tallahassee and will be forever grateful for the opportunities and professional development that I received while being employed. Thank you for your time, and I prepared documents for you guys.
So just judging by the looks down the dais, there's some faces of discomfort here. And so what I would ask, rather than us hashing it out here, and I do appreciate you taking time and coming, is that we each be briefed about the nature of this and that we have an opportunity to redress you on what we might learn. Commissioner Maddox?
It's just, I think it's important to note that by charter, we are precluded from getting involved in personnel matters. And in fact, if there's a non-interference clause to the charter, that if we interfere on employment matters beneath the level of appointed official, which would be city manager, city attorney, treasurer, clerk, or auditor, it is grounds for our removal.
Right. But I would be happy. I haven't spoken with Ms. Gay. I'd be happy to speak with her.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. Next speaker.
Next speaker is O'Neill Jackson, and then Barney Bishop.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Before I start my 3 minutes, I would like to applaud the mayor for not going over to Walton County.
You just lost 10 seconds.
And the rest of you all that went over, I will say Hillary Clinton, shame on you. Now, I get 9 minutes because I have 3 subjects. Now, a couple of weeks ago, you all voted to increase the property taxes. And Commissioner Richardson said if there were a better way, he would take a hard look and not increase property taxes to hire new law enforcement officers. I'm 100% in favor of hiring officers. But I do think that we could have taken a look at the property taxes. And when I say that, we could have taken and looked at code enforcement. I don't think that we're getting out of code enforcement now that we are a city instead of a small town, what we put into code enforcement. Commissioner Maddox, I do have problems with code enforcement, as you know from years ago. Code enforcement, I think we are putting somewhere in the neighborhood of about $300,000 per year after we look at the total cost of that, and I definitely don't think that we're getting that type of money out of code enforcement. With the 5 or 6 people that they have as officers, code enforcement officers, there's no way that they can patrol or make certain that the city of Tallahassee is whatever they want it to be, because it's very subjective and not objective. See, that department is very subjective. It's subjective to anything that someone wanted to be, or the officer wanted to be. Now, as far as the law enforcement officers, the new ones, I think that every officer, from the chief down to the new recruit, should have a body camera. I think we can come up with the money to do that. If I go in the chief's office, I will feel comfortable if I knew that it was recorded and there was evidence of what was said and what was not said. I want to be respected and treated like a person. And we do know with all these cameras and all of that stuff now that law enforcement officers have fabricated many of incidents. So we need to take a hard look at code enforcement, and if possible, Tallahassee would be the same city without that service, and it should go the same way of the 2 times a week picking up the black barrel, and the same thing we just done, gotten rid of those red light cameras. We'll be in the same position that we are right now.
Excuse me, your time has expired.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Jackson. Next speaker.
Next is Barney Bishop, and he will be followed by Ted Thomas.
Good evening. My name is Barney Bishop, and I'd like to talk to you about some options that you could use at looking at cutting the budget. I'm 100% in support of the public safety budget, so let me make that crystal clear. I think that we need all the officers. We need to pay for the officers that y'all have brought on in the past and the other benefits that you have already collectively bargained with the police union on. So let me just make that clear. Let me suggest some short-term solutions on how you could cut the budget, get to where you need to be without having to increase property taxes. First off, request each department head tonight to do a 10% cut exercise. Make sure that they get that 10%. When they do that, what they leave behind is going to be called core mission. Anything beyond that is to be deferred or looked at in the future. Once you do the 10% cut exercise, then you've got a meeting in a couple of weeks. They can come back and show you what that 10% looks like. It should be at least $1 million. Second, since y'all have requested $4.8 million for public safety, our goal is to find $4.8 million. You're going to receive $1.6 million in increase in property values. Now you're down to $3.2 million. You're scheduled to get about $2 million from the BP settlement. Take $1 million of that, put $1 million in the bank, take $1 million. Now you're down to $2.6 million. Then you've got the 10% cut exercise, which should get you another $1 million. Now you're down to 1.6. Look at the utility rate charge that Ted Thomas has talked about. Don't dismiss it out of hand. Have a letter written by staff to the Standard & Poor and Fitch, the credit reporting agencies. Ask them to give you in writing an opinion on what level that Ted's going to give you, which one of these is going to destroy the credit worthiness of the utility. Whatever that is, it's going to be at the minimum $1 million to $3 million. Now you've got everything covered. You've got $20 million in reserves over what you absolutely need to have at a minimum in the city rainy day fund. So you can take $1 million or $2 million out of that. And again, that's not going to hurt the city's credit worthiness, and that helps you get to what you need to do. As far as increases for the mayor's office, I would cut all of those. For the city manager's office, I would cut all of those. The $100,000 needs assessment to justify new space for Tallahassee Police Department or the Senior Center, guess what? You need it. Don't spend $100,000. Use common sense. Go ahead and expand those programs. Expand those spaces. Defer the $600,000 on the police body cameras. Mr. Mayor, respectfully, if you want it, call President Obama. Tell him to send the money down. When you get it, spend it. If you don't, defer it. $700,000.
Excuse me, your time has expired.
$700,000 for a disparity study is a ridiculous amount. Get FSU or FAMU to do it. They'd love to do it for $100,000. You'll find out what you need to do. Remember, this is your money. Finally, any city job that's been unfilled for a year needs to be eliminated from the budget. If they haven't been filled in a year, you don't need it. And finally, the Cascade horticulturist, you can defer on that or train one of the 5 people you already have working. That'll save you $163,000. These are some good, solid suggestions. I hope you'll consider them. Appreciate your time tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Great. Next speaker.
Thank you.
Next speaker is Ted Thomas, followed by Edward Holofield, and that will be the last speaker that I'm aware of, Mayor.
Barney, could you send that to us in an email? Thank you.
Good evening, Commissioners. Mayor, my name is Ted Thomas. I live at 1469 Vucaray, Tallahassee 32308. Just to piggyback on what Barney just said, I'd just like you to know that I have been in conversation with the Tallahassee Board of Realtors, Tallahassee Builders Association, NEBA, and we fully support the alternative budget Barney just presented. Having said that, I'd like to move on to my thoughts. We, the 3 associations that I mentioned to you and myself, fully support the need for public safety and those officers that you have on record as a need. I'd like to suggest, and I'll back up a little bit, I checked with the utility department, and if you increase the kilowatt hours by 1 penny, the cost by 1 penny, you generate $26 million in revenue. If you cut that penny in 4 pieces and you have a quarter penny, you would have increased and raised $6.5 million that can be transferred to the general fund to support the needs of public safety. 1/4 penny would 1/8 of a penny would generate $3.25 million, and the 1/16 of a penny, $1.6 million. And this stuff dovetails into what Barney just said about saving. Why 1/4 of a penny for the utility bill? I'll tell you. Because I believe that everyone in this community should share the costs in supporting public safety, whether you're a residential customer, a business owner, a state government, county, nonprofits, students. We all benefit from public safety. And please, don't let your staff tell you that it will ruin your bond rating or increase your interest rate. I checked with your staff, and they're wonderful people and very capable. But the terms that they spoke in are generalities. There's no specifics. And I reiterate what Barney just said. Send a letter to Standard & Poor Fitch. Get an idea of what that would do for this community as far as its bond rating and its interest rate. And I suggested in my recommendation that you sunset it for 4 years. And the reason I suggested that is because you've got a bump of $1.6 million from ad valorem taxes increase. If you do that over 4 years, you'll generate $6 million. $6 million should cover your cost and need for public safety. So those are my thoughts on utilities. And as I said, you see the specifics that Barney presented to you. And I think they shouldn't be taken lightly. These are some really good alternatives, and I think provide an opportunity for this group to not raise the ad valorem taxes. Commissioners and staff, I just going to chastise you a little bit, which I've done before, and you've left me unharmed in this body. I think you need to stop looking down that same tunnel. It's dark and it doesn't give you really any answers. I think you need to challenge your staff to give you those answers that are going to save money for this community and its people.
Excuse me, your time's expired.
I'm sorry?
Your 3 minutes have expired.
Oh, gracious. Well, anyway, I appreciate the time. Take a good look at it. I think there's some opportunities here. I'll be more than happy to help any way I can. Thank you.
Thank you, Ted.
And Ted, I'd like to ask you also to send this to us in an email.
Briefly.
What you
Sure.
said.
Commissioner Maddox.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to point out that we are asking questions on the commission level, and every item that Mr. Bishop brought up I asked about in the budget workshop.
Next speaker.
And I also wanted to make clear that there's nothing at all about this topic that we are taking lightly, any of us.
The next speaker, Mayor, is Edward Holyfield, and that's the last speaker that's on the agenda.
Ed Holyfield, Longleaf Court. The Confederate flag, a flag that will live in infamy. Mayor Gillum, I have not, and sorry, my voice is sort of going. I have not often praised you for much.
I know.
As you well know. But I would like to say that the entire black community stood up a little straighter when you decided not to go to that chamber event. And we really applaud you for it. As for Mr. Ziffer, we would like to know if you didn't have a conflict, would you have gone?
Yes.
Nancy Miller, we'd like to know if you didn't have a conflict, would you have gone? Scott Maddox, we'd like to know if you didn't have a conflict, would you have gone? You know what this flag represents to us? It represents the swastika. The Confederate flag is no different than the swastika. And Mr. Ziffer, you said very enthusiastically that you would have gone?
No, sir. We're not going to have this discussion now. You and I can have it later.
I'm just saying, I get my 3 minutes. You can respond afterwards. And don't charge it down here after me like you did before, like a bat out of hell. That was inappropriate behavior. There were at least two people reportedly lynched in Tallahassee during Jim Crow. And I guarantee you, right across from Cascade Park, not far from the old jail, and I guarantee you that the Confederate flag during that lynching of these two black men was in all probability flying high. So that's what you need to think about. Confederate flag to black people is a swastika. No different. I was confronted with the Confederate. How much time do I have?
You're covering the thing, so
about 3 seconds.
Well, let me just say this. I personally was confronted with the Confederate flag at Tallahassee Memorial Hospital. I walked into a cardiology conference, symposium, that was being put on by a bunch of white cardiologists. And hanging on the stage of the hospital was a Confederate flag. You'd like to know what year that was? M.T. Munston was the CEO, but would you like to know what year that was? That I personally removed the Confederate flag from Tallahassee Memorial Hospital, and I can provide documentation of that?
Your time has expired, Mr. Holyfield.
It was 1984. Think about it.
That's the last speaker, Mayor. All right. Commissioners?
That's very quickly. Dr. Holyfield, if you may recall, because I think you have spoken regarding what the experience was last time you were here, I had challenged you to give me a couple of examples of things that we could do in this community to solve those problems. I agree with you on 100%. You are absolutely right. There are things that need to be done in this community, particularly in our South Side when it comes to health, infant mortality, prenatal care. You are totally 100% right. We're looking for solutions, and I still challenge you, and that was 4 or 5 months ago. Haven't heard a word. Regarding your other comments, sir, I understand what that flag means, because what you said resonates, and I've had conversations with other folks regarding what a swastika means to me. Now, whether I would go to the chamber retreat or not, I'm not going to get into how I react to the swastika. The chamber retreat presented an opportunity. Mayor Gillum responded in a way that he felt appropriate, as would I, and as would anybody else in this commission, and I'd be more than happy to have that conversation with you directly.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioners, we are at the point of sharing of ideas, and I hope there's some good ones.
Mr. Mayor.
Yes, Commissioner Richardson.
Just a couple of things. As Commissioner Maddox mentioned about the budget, during this break, I have spent a considerable amount of time meeting with individuals, groups, trying to get past the noise and hearing what people are saying about what's being proposed. I've met with Mr. Bishop. He came to my office. We had a very civil discussion. He raised many of those same points. I've talked with Mr. Thomas at a forum that Steve Stewart organized in Killarn. Ted raised that issue about the utility transfer. I brought that back and inquired about it. I've gone to a meeting of the Conservative Caucus. Chief DeLeo can attest to that. He was the speaker at that meeting. And so I've tried to do my homework. I met this past Friday with Russell Price. I call him Rusty. Don't tell him I said that.
My neighbor.
And looked at the recommendations that the budget hawks made. I felt that some of those were very reasonable and should be considered by this commission and by the manager and her staff. I forwarded that email to Raul, who was standing instead for the city manager as she was on vacation. And I think some of those things are certainly things we should look at. I'm a taxpayer. My wife and I own a home. We pay property taxes. And so I'm not anxious to raise anybody's taxes. I have neighbors that I have to look at every morning when I get up to go to work. And I want to be able to look them in the face and their families and say that I did the right thing by this community. This is not something I take lightly. This budget was here long before I got here, less than a year ago. I commend my colleagues for what they've done over the years to keep our millage rate at the level that it is for 12 years. This is not something that any of us take lightly, but all of a sudden we've got all these budget experts. If it was that easy, we would have done it already. This is not easy. And we're going through this methodically to see what's in the best interest of this community, to keep it safe. Because unless we're a safe community and perceived as being safe, none of the other stuff we talk about up here matters. Economic development, tourism, being an elderly city, none of that matters if we're perceived as being an unsafe community. So that's something we take seriously as well and are trying to provide the chief with the resources that he needs from a law enforcement perspective. We also realize that we can't police our way out of this. We could give them 1,000 police. Look at what they've done in Chicago. And the murder rate in Chicago has not changed one iota. But law enforcement is an important component of a safe community. But we've, as our Operation Safe Neighborhood taught us this summer, we've got to have communities and neighborhoods involved in creating a safe community. And so I get irritated when it's assumed that we're just in a rush to raise people's taxes and are not doing our homework and asking the hard questions. Believe me, we are. And that will be reflected in whatever budget that we approve in late September that will address the needs of this community. And so I just wanted to put that out there, because if it were that easy, we would have done it.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Miller.
Thank you, Mayor. And thank you, Commissioner Richardson, for expressing that on the part of all of us. And no matter what anybody's position is, I think that no one, as I said, has taken any of this lightly. And because we only are talking about this year, no one really knows how much we discussed it last year and the year before that. It was discussed extensively, but we decided that as the community was not ready to have any increase in the property tax. One thing about this summer is that after talking to residents throughout the city from different parts, I mean, I haven't talked to everybody in the city, obviously, but I've talked to people from all over town. I've talked to Ted and the folks, I met with the folks from NEBA. I've talked to business owners. I've talked to quite a number of hours of conversation with folks. And the one thing that has been clear to me is that we have just failed to communicate the need to people. And I discussed this with the manager today. I have asked her to begin to do that, because, you know, the whole message that people are hearing right now is basically that it's a percentage. Well, when you you change a small number, 3.7 at all, and you transfer it into a percentage, it sounds like a big impact. And the 23% number, most people, only the very most wealthy people in town are going to actually pay $23 a month more. But that aside, I'm not making a case for this tonight. What I wanted to say is that we need to make our case better. We need more consensus in the community about this. We need more of a consensus on our commission. I don't feel comfortable going forward with this with a split commission. So during the next month, I'm hoping to see a lot more education, a lot more understanding, a lot more discussion, and I appreciate NEBA for inviting us to come on the 22nd. And I also want to thank the people who have come forward with suggestions. I appreciate the fact that you're willing to delve into the city's budget and try to figure out how to save money. Unfortunately, our millage, our ad valorem taxes come in at about $38 million, and our general fund, which is, by the way, is the only fund affected by the ad valorem, they all go into the general fund, is generally about $138 million. So we're trying to find $100 million in cuts, and I just don't, given the fact that the police are already above $50 million, right off the bat, we're short just for that. And then there's public works and parks and all the other general workings of government. So basically, bottom line here is that I want this to be a community decision, and I want us to work harder in talking to the community and communicating the message. Finally, the final point that I want to make is that we are going to receive probably $2 million from BP. That plus the 1.6 increase, all the math that Mr. Bishop gave us is absolutely correct. That will, I believe, should offset any proposed increase significantly. So I'd like to ask everyone that's working on the budget to look at the suggestions that have been made here tonight, the cuts that have been suggested, and also take the BP settlement into consideration and come back with a lower increase or none at all.
Commissioner Ziffer.
Commissioner Richardson's right. If it was easy, we would have done it. And my colleague, Commissioner Miller, is right. Because it's crossed my mind, and I'm glad you said it. I was very pointed in my remarks at one of our workshops regarding single or one-time fixes, because we've been doing that for years. And this $2 million in BP money, when it was originally the settlement was proposed to us, it sure sounded like it was going to be pretty far off in the distance, and we weren't absolutely sure if it was going to happen, but BP's agreed to it, and I imagine if the timetable's right, we're probably getting a check any day, if I understood the newspaper article correctly.
No, my understanding is by the end of the fiscal year is our expectation, but I don't have a document in front of me to.
And it is a one-time only fund. On the other hand, we have correspondingly a $2 million one-time expenditure for people, for software, as I recall, for upgrades. So Commissioner Miller, as much as I said I wouldn't support the one-time in this case, since it's a one-time dollar allotment of $2 million that we're receiving, and this software upgrade is $2 million, that's an easy swap out for me to go ahead and say, you know what, I was wrong. So I'm supportive of your suggestion. I'm not sure where that goes in our budget discussion that'll be in September. The other thing is, and I think I read this, Mayor, that I know that there's additional effort being made to try to find other funds for body cameras. I know we've had this conversation. I've read the PERF report, which we're getting in September. There are still some concerns for me that I want to have a discussion. I hope the chief will talk about that regarding the cameras. I agree, we need the cameras, but there are a lot of other issues around that I'd like to have greater discussion on, and that's a great deal of money. The other thing is, and this conversation may take place for us in September. We briefly had it in our budget workshop, and it had to do with public works, and it has to do with the growth of our potential public works department as blueprint money becomes available. I said it then, and I don't think we had enough conversation. Maybe it was just me, but I still believe Blueprint is a great organization, has done a great job for us, and I have a sneaking suspicion that as we look down the road, and there's a pretty significant increase in our public works budget from 14 to 15 to 16, that we're ramping up to do a lot of that in-house. And I, for one, am not in favor of that. I still think Blueprint serves a purpose. I think that organization serves a purpose. And I would like us to have a broader discussion, because I don't want to see us ramping up our public works department to do something that we already have a pretty good formula on. So that was a figure that concerned me. The trim notices, I got my first one today. I own some rental property, so I got one today. They're going out. Everyone's going to get one. So we're about to find out what all those numbers are. We're going to find out what it means for somebody that has a small property, somebody that lives on Live Oak Plantation, somebody that owns a rental property, somebody that owns an office building. So we're about to find out what those numbers are. Up to this point, we've talked about it. I have real concerns about some of the increases that we have. We're going to have an opportunity in September. But this government has to operate, because we're not separated from our citizens. We are our citizens. We're up here doing what we think is best for this community. And I'll throw one other item out there, and I wasn't going to do this, but we're going to spend $700,000 to put pavement down on a parking lot out at Messer Field. Our whole repaving budget is $1.5 million. I can't justify, when I see roads crumbling and I get emails, that we're not spending that $700,000 on roads that everybody uses, rather than a parking lot that I'm quite sure why we should be spending that money next year on. So that's one that I'm flagging right now, and I know we're not doing flags, but I'm going to do it anyways. I think that should go into our capital funds to do more repaving. We got roads deteriorating. It's awful. And that $700,000 would go a long way. And that's it for me.
Commissioner Maddox.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I've got a few easy ones, and I'll get into the meatier ones. One, I want to congratulate again Commissioner Ziffer for being elected second vice president. That's a big deal. That means that you've been elected by representatives of 410 cities, by your peers, to lead them. And you'll lead them through advocacy, through community building, through dealing with the legislature and the United States Congress. And that's pretty neat for Tallahassee. So we're proud that you did that. You'll be second vice president, then first vice president, and president. So I think it's a feather in our city's cap. So thank you. And I know that you worked very hard to get it. Commissioner Ziffer drove all over the state of Florida and met with people on his own dime, and we appreciate it very much. I just wanted to say that.
Thank you.
I'd like, Madam Manager, to come back at a future meeting, our policy on pedicabs and segways. Our Parks and Recreation Department is told we now have companies, they're in the audience, one that provides pedicab tours. For those of you in the listening audience that might not know what a pedicab is, a bicycle in the front and you sit in the back. And also Segway tours, which are a device that allows people to move very quickly and efficiently on a standing platform. And they're tours of the highlights of our city. I have been waiting for this in the private sector to come forward with something like this for many, many years in Tallahassee. This is really great. And I have seen pedicabs and segways exist with pedestrians all over the place. I've seen pedicabs exist with pedestrians everywhere from Denver, Colorado to Bangkok, Thailand. I don't know why in the world we're banning them from our parks, which we ought to want them in our parks. So, and it's easy when, I know the reason is they're worried about pedestrians, but they ring a bell and somebody steps to the side and they ride by. So I'd like to agenda that for us to make a commission decision on it. The second thing I'd like to have agended is when we left before the break, we said we'd bring back the late hours for bars and the closing time for bars, and it was not on this agenda. I want to make sure that it is in the queue for us to deal with.
Linda, do you know? I think it is scheduled for the next meeting.
It's not on the next meeting. I think Mr. Shelley wanted to be here when it came back.
Okay. I just want to make sure that we let all the interested parties know when it will be coming up. On the budget, there's lots of different points of view on the budget, and I think they're all valid. This is I believe this is my 14th budget with the city of Tallahassee. I have not voted for a property tax increase for any of them, and I'm not going to. I was against this one in the beginning, and the reason for that is, in my opinion, due to the truncated nature of our taxation system and the amount of property that is off the tax rolls due to government-owned property and nonprofits, it is an awful lot of squeeze for a little bit of juice, and it is an unfair burden on property owners. So that's where I've been, as you know, from the very beginning. I was there in 2012 when staff brought me the idea to possibly bring it forward, and we dealt with it in financial viability, and I'm there today. I'm a little perturbed with the budget hawks and other folks because they listened to me in the budget workshop, took the questions that I brought up on the disparity study, on the needs assessment, on the body cameras, on the vacant positions, turned that into a video and newsletter and told everybody to call me to change my mind on property taxes. So, I'm there where I'm against any increase on property taxes. I wish when they send these things out or speak, they would recognize that. I want to talk briefly about race relations. When I came in as mayor in 1997, it was the first time to have an elected mayor, and I chose race relations as the major topic that I wanted to get done during my tenure. And with the help of a lot of great people, including Dr. Charles Evans, we were successful in bringing in nonviolence training and doing study circles and opening a dialogue on race relations that continues in the city of Tallahassee today. One of the pledges that we took early is that when we heard generalizations made about a race or generalizations or statements that can have racial overtones, that we would speak out against it and about it, regardless of what race was affected. And so I feel like I have to say that tonight. I mean, I'm not going to talk about Mr. Brown's comments because we know that Mr. Brown just makes comments, right? They don't have factual basis. But Dr. Hollifield, you said several times that the Confederate flag is offensive to black people, to African Americans. Well, it's offensive to a lot of white people too, me included. You asked only the white commissioners why they would go or not go to the chamber retreat. I don't think that's right. I think if you're going to ask people, ask everybody. I had plane tickets to go to the chamber retreat from Orlando, Florida, from the Florida League of Cities, and I canceled for that reason. I'm not saying that anybody's decision is any different than mine. That was my personal decision. I didn't look for attention on it. That was just my personal decision. We heard comments earlier today that there's a different standard of maintenance between the south side and the north side. That is false. That is not true. So I defy anyone to show me facts of where that is true. Because I have, and the city manager would not allow a different standard for maintenance between the south side and the north side. What you see sometimes is people in different neighborhoods. I hear people all the time say, how come you drive through Clarendon and you don't see litter? How come you drive through so-and-so neighborhood and the grass is all cut? That's because the people that live there are cutting the public right-of-ways. And the people that live there are picking up trash in front of their house. We have the same standard on the south side, north side, east side, west side when it comes to maintenance. If you don't believe me, I live 2 doors down, 3 doors down for the governor's mansion. I have watched the right-of-way across the street from my house continue to grow where it is now this high, and there's a big dump of limbs and trash that have been there for 6 months that the governor passes every day when he drives from the governor's mansion to the Capitol. And that's in the heart of town. That could be considered, certainly north of Tennessee Street. So I don't want anyone to think that we have a different standard based on where you live or based on the color of your skin. If we have maintenance issues, it's because we need to do better. And if we need to do better, we need to do better everywhere, not just in one place. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
That's fair. Thank you. No, sir. But thank you. The two things on the budget. I align with really a lot of the comments that have been made. This is difficult work, and it requires a lot of thoughtful consideration and a lot of tough decision making all through this process. And since 2003, I've had the 2014 the lucky pleasure of working through a number of these budgets, as have a number of us. For me, I would like to see whatever we do be sustainable because we have structural problems. And if we don't feel like right now we've got the appetite to do, or we think that maybe with more time and more work, then maybe we are buying ourselves some time to do that. But one-time fixes are a problem for us. They are a real problem for us. We've done it. We've plugged. We've taken from here to pay there. We've even changed the formulary for the contribution from the utility. Now I think twice or 3 times to avoid a tax situation. If we want to reopen that, we kind of have to do it. We know what the bond situation is, but we're an autonomous body. We do have to work within the confines of that agency and figure it out. But the one-time fixes are kind of up for us, and we owe ourselves and we owe the citizens, I think, more than that. Based off some of the comments heard this evening, I do think that the manager and her staff will need to prepare, I think, a couple of different scenarios for us, because if we wait till September to get to it, we're really going to be within a rock and a hard place. I think one of those options has to be a no tax increase. That also includes the public safety requests that have been made. And that means, we're working backwards from sort of the number that we're in today. I do think that a $250,000 and a $500,000 probably also need to be contemplated as part of the strategy moving forward, because there has been a lot said, and a lot of us have met with a lot of people, and we're trying our very best to be as responsive as we can while balancing the needs that we have and the quality of life that people in this community have come to expect. And so what I would hate is that we get to the last minute, and then, we all are feeling extremely frustrated with one another and with the process, and then we end up with, I think, a less than thoughtful budget for the community. So, that's that on the budget. To pick up from where Commissioner Maddox left. Yeah,
before
please.
you go on to that,
Yeah.
I just wanted to go back to, I wanted to follow on what you just said. This is a community, it's extremely well-educated community. This is a community that when we present, not just we, but when any topic is on the table and the community has the opportunity to really see all the facts, they understand and they make informed decisions. I trust this community. In this case, and they went for the blueprint tax. They went, they supported the school board tax and the blueprint tax again. And so I believe that if we're here, we make financial decisions on behalf of the city every other week. And we're constantly steeped in all of the expenses the city has. We've also had that opportunity to sit there and try to figure out how to make it past the recent years without making a change. That is something that now is out there ready for public consumption, essentially. We have to get it. We have to get people the facts, and that's where I was coming from when I talked to the manager today.
I agree on your point around the facts. I also think people are extremely anxious. They've heard a diversity of comments from all of us over this period of time. We're in the sausage making process, and so that's going to happen. But we will have to settle on something because we got to adopt a budget going forward, and so that's why I made the recommendation, and I'm sure they're already thinking through this, that we need a range of options here. Right. That way, at least the majority of us, and I know there was a call for more unanimity in it, but at least the majority of us have a level of comfort around moving forward financially. And as I said, I'm going to just segue away from the budget for a moment. Commissioner Maddox, your comments and your work around race relations is well noted and well respected. And I will tell you, my decision on Walton County, which I know that we're splitting hairs, but I need to say that, on Walton County was not intended to be divisive. It was, in fact, someone wrote to me, it's divisive, and I thought, I'm sorry, who made this decision that appears divisive? It certainly wasn't me. It was the majority of the Walton County Commission that decided, and not in 1964, not in 1965, but in 2015, that they would resurrect and erect the Confederate flag. But I think as a community, we have, I give major kudos to the Chamber leadership for the decision that they made, which comes at some level of financial risk. But it was a statement of their values, and I think that collectively we as a community gathered around that. And someone said, well, haven't you been going over the Walton County and what has changed? Well, I will tell you what has changed. South Carolina changed, just as Newtown changed for a lot of people. And it didn't change my impression about the flag. I've always abhorred the Confederate flag. What it changed for me was seeing that flag come down from in front of the Capitol. I never realized how impacted I was by it until I saw it being removed. What was the nail in the coffin, because the manager and I had lots of conversations, I was bouncing a lot off of her in this consideration, was watching a video after the county commission over there made their decision, and you saw what looked like a mile long of cars and trucks honking horns and waving the flag, and it just said something about the moment, and it said something about a place that just wouldn't work for me. And I know that a lot of us, I think we're all unanimous in our agreement around our sentiments around the flag, and people had to make their own decisions, and I completely get that and understand that. I think the opportunity moment we have, we just approved the longest table event as a community. That's another way for us to continue this dialogue, another way for us to continue this discussion. The Race Relations Summit will continue again this year. We're attempting to frame it in such a way that people can walk into the doors, feel free, feel comfortable, and be prepared to have thoughtful conversations about how to move our community forward. And I feel real good about that. And I think there are a number of other steps that we're taking as a community to keep moving Tallahassee forward. But no intention. I don't think anybody ended up on the right or wrong side. The wrong side, in my opinion, was the decision unanimously made by a different county outside of us. And I think the right side are the efforts that we're trying to take to bring our community together and move us forward. So I do hate what may feel like division, but I do think we're a stronger and a better community when we have these conversations openly. And our ability to move the community forward more brazenly, I think, is only strengthened by it. So just wanted to share that. Final congratulations again to you, Commissioner. You're humble, but it means a lot to have that kind of representation from the capital city at the Florida League of Cities in the role that we play more nationally. Commissioner Zifford, followed by Commissioner Richardson.
Two very quick things. First of all, Mr. Mayor, I appreciate your leadership on the budget, asking the city manager to come up with some different scenarios for us, because unlike a month ago, I'm beginning to feel there might be a consensus building between many of us, and I think that's important. The second thing is, and more kudos to my colleague, Commissioner Maddox, when I started on my travels throughout the state, he provided tremendous amount of information and, in turn, confidence for me to do what I needed to do, which was visit with every league, not one time, but multiple times, to gain the support and also to learn the different folks that are around the state and what their issues are, which is going to make it a lot easier for me to represent them when I go before the Capitol or any opportunity that I'm called upon. So he did it in, after you were elected, you did it in a motorhome, was mayor on the move. I had my old Jeep, which I drove all over the state. I don't know how many tens of thousands of miles I put on that thing. But it is an honor to have been elected. It's a little overwhelming each day that it passes. I'm a little more overwhelmed by the responsibility that's been placed upon me. But knowing that I'm going to have two other colleagues on that board with me means a great deal. Means a great deal to me. So thank you for all your great comments, and I look forward to serving this city and the league in the state of Florida. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Richardson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a couple of things. One is I wanted to follow up on Commissioner Maddox's comments about the pedicabs and Segway. I had an opportunity to do a Segway with Tim this afternoon. If you haven't, do it.
I heard you fail.
No, I didn't. But I tell you what, I was almost convinced to buy one for myself, and I'm going to call and set up a tour for my family. I really enjoyed that.
Good.
I mean, whizzing, there's Tim. We whizzed around downtown. I mean, you have to get used to it, but just whizzing around downtown, I'm like you, Commissioner Maddox. I don't know why we haven't had it before now. I think there's a way to do it to keep everybody safe and separated, just like we separate the bikes from cars on the road. So I certainly hope we will bring that forward soon. The last thing is the ULI report. As you all know, we got that report just before we left for the break, and I don't want us to lose any of the momentum on that. I've met with the city manager, gave her some proposals for the Blue Ribbon Task Force that they recommended, and also one of the things that they talked about was an individual that would be solely dedicated to moving this project forward. Now, the city manager and I have talked about a possibility. I don't know if I agree with you 100%, Madam Manager. I still think that it should be someone solely dedicated to moving those recommendations forward and working with this task force, and that may have a fiscal impact. I'm not suggesting a full-time person, maybe a contracted person, that would be singularly focused on working with that task force and moving the recommendations forward, coming up with a strategic plan. That's what the ULI report calls for, is a strategic plan for implementing those recommendations. And so I certainly want us to move forward. Commissioner Ziffer and I talked about that in long-range planning today. And, of course, I will be more than happy as the Southside liaison to work with staff and the city manager to begin that process and certainly keep you all abreast and apprised of where we move forward, and hopefully we'll have you all's blessings as we go forward. Now, a lot of it is low-hanging fruit. I mean, like they talked about lighting, cutting underbrush, those kinds of things. Others, we will have to make some decisions on, sidewalks, parks, where there, of course, will be a fiscal impact and maybe setting some priorities. But the task force, which will be the major stakeholders in the community, will help us and make recommendations to us for moving those projects forward.
Great. Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Ziffer.
To follow up on the Commissioner's comments, everything he just mentioned and what really the ULI report addressed is public safety. It is.
Sure. Yes.
And everything we're talking about is public safety. It's also public opportunity, which I was impressed with the ULI report on. We've not had a real opportunity to have that conversation. Sure. We talked about it briefly today in our long-range planning, and I'm supportive because we've identified Commissioner Richardson as leading us in the South Side. So I'm supportive of what he's suggesting, and we kind of jumped it here to bring it back to y'all right away, and we had the conversation of actually getting some consensus for Commissioner Richardson to at least try to push this ULI program further forward. Now, he's going to bring us up to date all the way, but
absolutely.
He's our guy, and so I'm supportive of what he's suggesting. It's a great report. There's some specific recommendations. Clearly, there are some funding issues, but I think moving those forward with his leadership is probably the right thing for us to do. So I'm suggesting we at least have some kind of brief moment here where we say go forward or hold back.
Go forward. Sure.
Okay.
Well, I think we need to have a discussion about it. I mean, I think we need to have, this would all.
Can we agenda?
Would be a workshop topic, I would think.
And that's what we had planned to do.
Right.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So we'll get it on a future workshop agenda. Yes. There was one other thing that I know we talked about tonight too, also a workshop, but any other comments before we adjourn, commissioners? Thank you very much for your thoughtful comments, and we are adjourned. See, you ordered us.